So for my earthquake, I chose the Alaska earthquake of 1964 on Good Friday. So when, where, and why? The earthquake occurred at 5:36 p.m. on Good Friday of March 27th, all across south central Alaska. It lasted approximately 4.5 minutes and had a magnitude of about 9.2, its effects being felt across almost all of Canada and the United States and other neighboring areas. It occurred in a subduction zone caused by the Pacific Oceanic Plate sinking northward underneath the North American Continental Plate. And the exact fault that ruptured due to the compressional force was called the Aleutian Megathrust. So the map to the left is showing the exact epicenter of the earthquake, which is the red star, and where the plates are relative to one another. The earthquake also triggered a multitude of devastating tsunamis, landslides, and submarine slumps, and created thousands of aftershocks in the months following. With the human impact, the earthquake caused about 131 deaths. 15 of those were during the initial tremors of the earthquake, and the rest were during the subsequent tsunamis and landslides that occurred afterwards. The earthquake also damaged around 75% of buildings and other infrastructures in the affected areas, and around the total cost of damage was about $311 million all across the globe. With environmental impacts, we see parts of the Alaskan coast sank up to 8 feet, while other parts rose up to 38 feet, creating small, what you'd call islands. And much of the coast moved 50 feet towards the ocean. We also had coastal forests that plunged below the sea level and were all destroyed by the salt water. And more avalanches that resulted from the earthquake destroyed hundreds of habitats and killed lots of wildlife in the areas. And here are just a couple of images to emphasize those environmental impacts. And finally, because of how big this earthquake was in history, there were many lessons that scientists learned from this. One of them resulting with the Uniform Building Code Act. And under this act, the newly created Division of Emergency Services, the DES, initiated major disaster preparedness plans and programs to improve the ability of state and local agencies to respond to disasters faster. The earthquake also was able to show scientists a lot about tectonics, helping convert plate tectonics from a theory into an actual textbook fact at the time. The earthquake was recorded on more than 70 newly installed worldwide standardized seismograph network stations that allowed a view into the mechanics of those more giant earthquakes. And so together, from all the data they acquired, the earthquake was sufficient to examine the rupture process by mapping slip distribution and the source time function. And finally, with the recognition of sources of the tsunami generation, such as fjord landscapes and splay faults from the megathrust of the earthquakes, it also makes this earthquake so important for coastal hazards and making sure in the future the placement of buildings and other landscapings are not at risk.